Shabbat Shalom, Friday night we start our Shabbat. The evening and the morning, it says in the Bible, we're the first day. We start in the evening, and we're moving fast. We're moving strong. There are so many tunnels, dozens and dozens. We're finding, as the Combat Engineer Corps Elite Unit, Yahalom, we're finding a lot of tunnels. Weapons, over back in Zaytun, in Jabalia, Beit Lahia. These are places we've already dealt with, but they're rearming. They're going back through other tunnels, and we just got to keep on our toes. We got to stay strong. This war has been going on for months, 7 months? And, Israeli spokesperson Avi Hyman, he says Israel Defense Forces, IDF, that's us, have killed about 14,000 terrorists. It's quite a lot. And sadly, 16,000 Gazan civilians have lost their lives since the outbreak of this war that Hamas started, the destruction that Hamas has brought upon Gaza. They're evil. And that is a sad part of war. But it's actually a lot less than other people were saying. It's important to just look at those numbers being released. Meanwhile, in Iran, the head of the octopus, Al-Quds, they call it Al-Quds, the holy, right? The holy force. I don't think they're that holy at all. Doesn't Al-Quds refer to the Temple Mount? Aren't they supposed to be looking towards Mecca? That's the Mecca and Medina. That's the holy cities of Muhammad. Not to the edge mosque. Al-Aqsa is the edge mosque, the edge of the Islamic Empire. That's our number one holy place. It's mentioned in the Bible. Jewish people pray towards Jerusalem 3 times a day. But I hear this, they're going to execute tomorrow a Jewish man. There was this altercation of some sort, and they want to execute, the Al-Quds force wants to execute a Jewish man in Iran. And I see all these proxies just driven to kill Jewish people. And I'm looking at Iran more in all this. I'm taking a bird's eye view. On November 4th, 1979, do you remember that Iranian militias seized control over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, kidnapped 50 Americans, they held them captive hostages for 444 days. Isn't that crazy? Iran has been at war. You ever see that movie? And the whole story of how that happened, and they've still been at war with America for over 45 years, and it just seems like people don't get that. I know Netanyahu says it all the time in the UN, and we get that. We get what we're dealing with here, but they don't get that when these 320 missiles and mortars, everything were shot by Iran onto Israel. That's part of their war against. They say death to Israel. They say death to America. And so, remember they took hostages. Isn't that just a strange thing to remember? And look what their proxy Hamas did. Took an Islamic Jihad and Izzeldin al-Qassam, the Al-Quds, the IRGC. These are all parts, the Houthis, Hezbollah, parts of this Islamic, ISIS, this type of Islamic nation. They're trying to topple the West, and to establish this caliphate, really, is what it is. And the Alawites and the Badr force in Iraq. So there's a lot of them. There's a lot of this. And that's why we have to have checkpoints. And I want to just talk about this. You see, I'm here at this Rafah crossing checkpoint. I mean, at one point, this was a crossing point. You would have an actual person come from Egypt or from Gaza to Egypt, and you go through. And checkpoints are a reality that we have to deal with. 9/11 made that very, very clear. You need to have checkpoints at airports, checkpoints when you enter a mall in Israel. You have security. And I'm not pointing any fingers as to why we have to have checkpoints in our life, but I know that Palestinian people say, those Zionists, they always make us go through a checkpoint to check for a bomb, to check for weapons before they come in, before we let them work in Israel. That's how it was for many, many years, until October 7th. Hey, what other countries are letting them come and work and get jobs and pay their electric bill and their water bill and so on? But this is a journey towards redemption. We have to stand strong against adversity. And I just want to talk about checkpoints. You have to go through checkpoints. Okay, since Israel's been established, we've had to deal with wars and attackers, and that's why, War of Independence, 1948. We just celebrated that, right? Independence Day, and then there was a war that broke out. We were attacked by neighboring countries all over, and then that wasn't the end. There was the Suez Crisis, military intervention in Egypt, and it was a strategic victory. It's still taught about Ariel Sharon and his leadership. It was just amazing. It's taught about the Six-Day War, 1967. It's talked about how how well these things were handled. You go to West Point and you hear they talk about Israel. It's awesome. But here's what it is there's profound things happened where Jerusalem was liberated, came back into the hands of the ones that God asked to steward the Garden of Eden, and so we have to have checkpoints where you have dangerous areas, people that want to strap bombs onto themselves and commit become shaheeds, and that's wrong. That's called murder. No, it's not a martyr. You're a murderer. In 1973, Yom Kippur War, that's 50 years ago to the day, when 50 years later we have the 7th of October happen. And we were surprised yet again. But I'm just saying, when you have these things, and of course I'm part of a lot of this. I wasn't in 1982 first Lebanon War. I was in 2006 second Lebanon War, and all these different various cast lead operation, protective edge operation. So many. And so you have to have checkpoints. It doesn't mean we're trying to humiliate people at checkpoints. It means it's a necessary part of keeping our land safe, keeping our people safe. Buses were blowing up. Sbarro's Pizza in Jerusalem was blowing up. The Dolphinarium in Tel Aviv was blowing up by these attackers before we really made our security fence. No, it's not a apartheid wall of terror. No. I'm just touching on things but it's called a security barrier to bring security to our civilians, to our kindergartens. And so the Aliyah Return Center is a bit of a checkpoint. It's a place where people make their Aliyah to the land of Israel, their immigration, whether they're lone soldiers, whether they're Holocaust survivors that need help. We're able to be a help to them, okay? And in the midst of all this, I realize we are all part of a checkpoint, and we want to bless the Jewish immigrants as they come into this land and not check them for bombs, but check them for a determination, check them help them to have a Abraham-like Lech Lecha. And it's Shabbat, so the portion of the week is Emor, Leviticus 23. You read the portion of the week. It's the oldest Bible reading plan in history. And so it's the lunar cycle. It's based on the moon. And we have these feast days. And Leviticus 23 talks about the Sabbath day, the holiness of Passover, upcoming Pentecost, Feast of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, booths, Sukkot. And it's all part of the redemption plan story of Israel and the world. You got to be part of it. These are appointed times. These are moedim. So I'm just saying all this because we're counting the Omer. We're heading to Pentecost, Shavuot, 7 sevens, and these are all. It's all part of the ingathering. Ezekiel 37. It says, I will take the Israelites from all the lands that they've gone. I will gather them home and back into their land, into their own land. I will make them one nation on the mountains of Israel. So that is what the enemy doesn't like. That's why you have all these forces. It's like the what is it called? The Hittites, the Hivites, the Amalekites, the Perizzites, the mosquito bites. All these people were coming against the plan of Aliyah. And as the chairman of the board, executive director of the Aliyah Return Center, I want to say, guys, Aliyah is most holy to God. So it's a holy day starting, and I just covered a lot of stuff right now, but I want to just say, let's do the Omer count. Let's count the Omer together. It's 50 days, 7 sevens, and it's Shavuot, first fruits. And God's putting Israel in the midst of our focus, all right? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us, commanded us to count the Omer. Yeah, it's in the Bible.